Scouting the League. We are live here on Twitter, on X, on YouTube, as well as Riverside. Neil Stratton is always along for the ride as we take a look at the best draft award winners from inside the league. We look at the names that are coming from those staffs as we start to look forward to and think about some of these GM openings that could be happening. Of course, we've got the one down in Miami. We will talk a little bit about that one, what pairing may make sense with Mike McDaniels. And then we don't like to speculate. We don't like to, call for people's jobs. But again, we will really talk about the names that should be interviewing, that should be up for some of these jobs. All of that here today. Make sure you're tuned in, you're following, liking, subscribing. If you have questions, if you want to know about a particular name or maybe somebody from a team, hit us up. Neil is at Inside the League on Twitter. I'm at RightStepADV. Comments are open. Let us know what questions you have. We will be answering those as we go through. Of course, this full episode will be up after the fact to go back and listen to if maybe you're making a pie, whipping up those mashed potatoes, whatever it may be throughout today, tomorrow, as Thanksgiving's fully upon us. I've got a whole host of people coming to my house along, Neil, with 10 to 12 pies. Again, we are a big pie household. We are going to be eating it for days. We do the full thing: turkey, regular potatoes, sweet potatoes with marshmallows. It's the full gambit. What's the one thing that you have to have on your plate come Thanksgiving time?
It's after, and we're a deep South family. A lot of people incorrectly call a pecan pie a pecan pie. The truth is, it's supposed to be called Cairo nut pie. All right, that's how you know if you're from the South or not. If you call it Cairo nut, because it's that Cairo syrup that gives it that crazy sweetness that you only get in a Cairo nut pie. And so if my mom's not making it, I'm not eating it. And if we're not having it on Thanksgiving, it's not really Thanksgiving. So Cairo nut, that's the key to any successful Thanksgiving. Now, we're not going to have 10 to 20 pies. I don't know if everyone on our street put together would have 10 to 20 pies, but I admire the fact that you're focused, keeping the main thing.
Yeah, that's great. Again, you load up your first plate, you wait a half hour, and then you take a bunch of small slices of pie. You eat throughout the day. Some great football games on. There's going to be some good ones, as always, on Thanksgiving. Again, fill up, watch football, take a nap, let that turkey settle in. But it's going to be great. Hopefully you and yours out there have a great Thanksgiving. Plenty to be thankful for. That's always one of the reminders, no matter where you're at. If you're listening to this podcast, you got something to be thankful for, right? Listening to Scouting the League. What more do you have to be thankful for? We got football, we got work, we've got health, we've got a lot of things going for us. But let's jump into it, Neil, today. Again, we're going to talk about future GM candidates and really focus, as you've done a great job inside the league, recognizing best draft award winners. And again, we'll look at really the last 5 and maybe even a few before that really deserve recognition, because the best draft award winners through inside the league have placed future and eventual GM. So again, we start talking about the last 5. You got Los Angeles Rams under Les Snead. They've put both James Gladstone and Brad Holmes in spots. Again, the year before that, it was Brad Holmes, who came from LA, of course, again, winning at Detroit. You've got the Seattle Seahawks, John Schneider. He's done a great job for a long time there. Of course, they play Scott Fitterer, who unfortunately didn't last in Carolina. You've got George Paton, who came from Minnesota. Broncos GM, they went at best draft, and they sent Darren up to the New York Jets this last cycle. And then the last one, Jason Light down in Tampa, again, probably one of the more underappreciated, front offices, just keeps doing good work over and over. Of course, they send John Spytek to the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, hard not to mention, the 49ers one before that. Again, they've placed 2 GMs, Adam Peters, Rand Carthon, of course, not in Tennessee anymore. You've got, the Saints that have been winners. The Colts, I believe, were the other winner that we've recognized before. And then we'll have some candidates from there. But again, as we start talking about it, Neil, as of right now, we've got one opening. Chris Grier, no longer in Miami. Again, a well-liked, well-respected. If he wants a job, I think he's not going to have a problem, and he may already have it lined up. Sounds like Mike McDaniel is going to be the coach there. They're going to find a placement. And again, those that have followed Mike McDaniel, that know Mike McDaniel, there's probably going to be a certain fit that makes sense there. Again, Chris Greer, Mike McDaniel never made a ton of sense to me. It'll be interesting to see kind of what route the Ross family, the ownership group, goes with that GM. But as we start talking about Miami, the rest of these, Neil, who are the names? Where do we want to go? Where do you want to start with kind of what we're expecting with his GM cycle?
Well, let's start by talking about the teams that have won best draft. I mean, if we look at the last 5 years, those teams are maybe a little bit more current and have had some success, and they've certainly had names. They've got people in those front offices that are worthy of recognition. More often than not, if you're an owner, you're looking at teams that have a solid winning tradition, who have had success, obviously, on the field, and maybe know a little bit more about what they're doing on draft day too, because after all, that's where it all starts. So let's go back to the 2020 award, which was kind of a weird year. We held the combine here in my office. I'm sorry, we had the combine seminar here in my office. It was virtual. It was online with big help from my friend Rick Saratella, who kind of produced it. But when Jason Light accepted the award, he had two people come on, and you can go back and find the video on our YouTube page if you want to. He had two people come on and help him in accepting him. Those two people were John Spytek, who is now a GM in his own right in Las Vegas, and Mike Beal, the VP of Player Personnel. And that always had resonance to me, because to me it told me that those were key members of the staff that probably Jason kind of wanted to put the spotlight on. And so, given that John has already gotten his, I think it's Mike's turn. Highly regarded. I mean, the Bucs are a very good stealth drafting team, and that's why I think they've won 4 straight division titles, somewhere along those lines. Baker Mayfield gets a lot of the credit because they kind of found him in free agency, and who knew he would do everything he's done. He's kind of been reborn down there, but they've got a lot of pieces that are homegrown. Mike Evans, Wirfs. They've got a number of others off the top of my head. The safety, whose name escapes me right
Winfield, now. Levante David. They've got a lot of good. Again, they've nailed their day 3. They've got a bunch of those. Again, that's what the NFL is: contributors that show up and win week in and week out.
And I think to some degree, a lot of teams now, I think, look at day 3 as kind of a day to roll the dice on traits guys, and that's that's defensible, I guess. But they're going out and finding players that produce immediately and come in and start. Not just for any team. I mean, if you're a bottom rung team, then you're going to get stars in the draft. The Bucs are winning every year, and they're bringing guys that start and play and contribute immediately. And so I think Mike deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, certainly. Again, that Tampa team, again, as you said, a sneaky one. It's a credit to that organization. Again, we talk about it all the time: patience and stability. And they are, again, they don't consistently get brought up with the Green Bays, with the Baltimores, who we talk about all the time. Is like, hey, these are kind of pillar front office organizations that just keep running through it and rolling through it. Again, Tampa's approaching that category. Jason's been there a long time. Again, Coach Bowles has been there. Again, they've had the stability. They've been patient. Probably 1 or 2 years where there was a little bit of outcry from the fans and those in the media who like to stir stuff up. But again, they've been stable. They're placing GMs. Again, Mike Beal probably certainly going to get interviews, deservingly so, going to get interviews. So again, Tampa back in 2020, they're going to continue to do it. If they, again, it's all of a sudden a really, wide open division, it looked like Tampa was going to maybe run away with it. They've come down a little bit. It's going to be a battle to the end in that NFC South. And maybe there's one team that is out of it, Neil, and we won't even talk about them. A former best draft. And again, they've done well in the past. Again, maybe a rebuilding year, if you want to call it. So again, the Saints, of course, but you go from them. Again, George Paton, again, another really quiet front office that has done good things. Again, a front office that gets overshadowed by the head coach, certainly in Sean Payton. And again, it's not a massive secret that, again, Sean Payton holds a lot of weight in personnel decisions, just like he did in New Orleans, certainly doing that in Denver. Again, maybe it's a reason why you see people looking for new opportunities, because his personnel as a scout guy, that that can be a tough pill to swallow. But of course, the George Payton, and they send Darren up to the Jets. Is there anybody else on that Broncos staff that next best draft award winner that we should maybe be on the lookout for?
Well, yeah, they kind of got picked clean this last offseason. Some of those guys headed west to the Raiders, and a number of others are in consideration. I believe one went to the Jets as well. But Cody Rager's still there. He's the VP of player personnel. And Cody's an interesting guy because I know I went to Saints training camp a few years ago and bumped into Jeff, and he made a point of introducing me to Cody because he sees him as a real riser. Of course, Cody was an area scout with Jeff in Miami, came to New Orleans with him. I think he's the only one that he brought with him from Miami. And when I think it's the buzz has been pretty constant for years that Peyton has been trying to lure Jeff Ireland to Denver. Hasn't happened for a number of reasons, but he was able to bring Cody Rager in, and I think Cody's kind of like Jeff surrogate. I know everyone probably is like, why would you take from the Saints? Well, again, that's a whole nother story, but there was a comfort level there, and we all know that head coaches like to work with people, and GMs for that matter, like to work with people they've worked with in the past. And I think Peyton bringing Rager in says a lot about how highly he regards him. And so I think as VP of player personnel, he doesn't have a whole lot higher that he can go. In Denver, he's kind of landlocked, but I could see him getting consideration in other places, especially as the Broncos continue to just really lay waste the AFC this year. What a great season they've had.
Yeah, how about that? Again, everybody expecting maybe a regression of Bo Nix and kind of that thing that they had working out there, and all of a sudden they're sitting atop the division that everybody circled as being the most competitive.
Absolutely.
Chiefs, they're still the Chiefs. They're going to be there come the end of the year. The Chargers seem like they're up and down, losing both tackles. They're still playing competitive football. Again, the Raiders obviously struggling this year, making the change on both sides of the ball. See what happens with Pete Carroll, but again, that with John there now in Vegas, they knew it may be a year or two. They got to find their future quarterback. But again, that division with the Broncos playing the way they are, do I trust them? I don't know if I can say I trust them yet, but again, they're winning football games, winning close football games, which again, if you can do that, you get into the playoffs, you got a chance to run it. So let's go to the next year then. Seattle Seahawks. Again, John Schneider there at the Combine, accepts the award. Again, highly respected. Front office. Again, you talk about long-term stability again, and now what they're doing with the new head coach there, with kind of the changing, resetting, and they're right back competing in that division, which again, maybe the best division in the NFL, that NFC West, and Coach McDaniel has Coach McDonald has that team playing really well. So who from this Seattle front office could we be seeing their name popping up here?
When you think of Seattle, I think it was like in the 80s and 90s when Nebraska was really at its peak, and that's when the phrase "they don't rebuild, they reload," and that's kind of how the Seahawks are. I mean, it seems like there's just never a drop off in their talent level or their coaches, and it looks like they really hit it big with Mike Macdonald. Matt Berry is the person I'm looking at there. He won his first Bartlist Award last year. He's the VP of player acquisition, and I don't fully understand what that title means. We're starting to see that now, and I don't know how that equates necessarily to our traditional titles like VP of player personnel, what have you. Maybe he actually goes out and pulls the names off the board and moves it around or something. I'm not sure exactly. But he's very respected, and I think a guy, the needle's pointing up there. Again, won his first Bart last year, but I could see that him getting some momentum there and maybe have that happening more and more. But he's not the only one. Trent Kirchner is the VP of player personnel there. Really like Trent, really like the work he's done. And then he's won a Bart, as has Director of College Scouting Aaron Heinlein, who won one, I think, 2 or 3 years ago as well. Those guys are on the way up and will be interviewing in places soon. Aaron may be a couple beats away because he may have to wait for Trent and Matt to clear out of there first and really kind of move up and get that kind of title. But there's a lot of talent in that front office, and obviously a lot of people are going to be looking to Seattle just because of the success they've had in the past. So those are the ones that the names I would circle or highlight as we move towards a few more GM vacancies in the offseason, presumably.
Yeah, yeah. Again, Trent has been a name the last couple cycles, gotten interviews, and again, it seems like when those guys go through the cycle one, two, three times, eventually something's going to pop for them. Again, you expect it, and again, Matt's name keeps popping up everywhere with a unique title like that. Again, sometimes those unique titles say like, "Hey, yeah, we want to keep you, we want to give you more responsibility." You kind of make something up because somebody deserves more, and again, you can only get up to that GM title. Obviously, John's doing what he's doing, and again, just the kind of a hallmark of stability there. Again, keeps coming back. We've said it with multiple of these stable franchise. If owners could hear that, stable franchises, there is something for patience. There's something for stability, for knowing who you are and what you do. Again, it keeps showing up here. Again, Seattle certainly going to be part of that. And again, these next two, again, Detroit and the Rams. Again, you see a lot of similarities. Obviously, Brad Holmes comes from LA, wins that best draft award winner. They've got, again, probably some surprises that didn't get jobs last year that, again, are going to be frontline candidates again this year. Detroit, again, resetting a little bit, playing a little up and down this year. But again, it's all about playoffs for them. They have the roster. They have the front office. Who from that front office? They lost the coaching staff last year. Maybe they'll lose the front office this year. Who's it going to be?
I don't know why there's not more buzz about Ray Agnew, the assistant GM there. Maybe it's because he doesn't play the game with the media. Maybe he doesn't have, the kind of agent who's always got him in the headlines or what have you. But he's the guy that Brad Holmes brought with him from Los Angeles, and we all know the success that LA has had on the field and in the draft. They have not, again, they've steadily built that team and have had success on draft day. And one thing I like about the Lions, and I'm probably not going to win any fans by saying this, they draft for production and promise. And I think more and more we're seeing teams that are really traits heavy. And I think that's one reason why it's like a 60% burn rate on first rounders over the last 3 or 4 years on guys that don't get to their option year. You've got to get guys that play on the field. And that's one thing I like about the Lions. Now, I don't know as much of their DNA as far as how they sort in their analytics and what have you, but I know that they're doing the job on the field, and I know they're doing the job on draft day. And that's why they won a Best Draft Award. And I think Ray Agnew, he deserves more attention, I think, when it comes to this. I believe he has interviewed for one job so far, but you can't argue with the success of the Lions. I mean, where was this team 4 or 5 years ago before Brad and company got there? And Dan Campbell, of course, got there. Wow, it's just been amazing. And I think they get a lot of credit for trading for the quarterback that everyone thought was just a throwaway. And, behind a good offensive line and a really good rushing attack has been fine, has been solid. And so just almost every move has come up successful for the Lions. Why don't you let him replicate a success somewhere else? I don't know. Now, I think they've got a couple others that I think deserve some attention. I think Dwayne Joseph, who's the director of scouting, who came in from the Raiders a couple years ago, I think he's a riser. And I also like Brian Hudspeth, who's the director of college scouting there. Another true grinder, came from scouting and on his way up. And again, you and I like traditional guys when it comes to scouting. So there's a couple more names, but Ray's the one that I would circle. I expect him to make a bigger splash in the offseason. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah, no, you hit it with this Lions team that has, again, drafting for traits, drafting for production, finding players that are going to get on the field, start, and at least produce at the level you're expecting them to. Again, you can look through, again, you think about Jack Campbell, a little bit of a not sexy prospect, but has been a solid, outstanding linebacker. Again, Aiden Hutchinson falls into their lap. But then on the other side, you've got like a guy, again, for all the talent that Jahmyr Gibbs was, he has, again, the moniker better pro than college player. Well, again, he was a good college player. He got drafted where he was, but they had a great plan for him. And again, front offices like Detroit, front offices that we have talked about, coaching, front office, personnel, they have a plan. They're on the same page. They're in lockstep. And again, Detroit, as much as anything, you see that between the head coach and the front office. As soon as you lose both your OC and DC, that plan and what you're going to do moving forward with those new coordinators, again, has to be set in stone, has to be there for everybody. The franchises that are on the same page are going to draft, develop, get the traits, get the production, get it on the field. The front offices and coaching staffs that aren't quite on the same page, again, it's like, hey, we're drafting, we're developing these guys, and then the coaching staff's gone. So now it's a different staff developing, or hey, we're not on the same page. We got this developmental player that we need to play and produce right now. It's like, no, that's not why we drafted this guy. He is a year away, a year and a half, whatever it may be. So again, keeps coming up. Stability, having the plan, having everybody in sync absolutely matters for all these organizations. Again, why good organizations continue to win. Let's hit on the last one. Again, maybe a front office that has been picked through a little bit as they've lost people every year out in LA. Again, you've got James Gladstone, who, again, kind of came out of nowhere, 35 years old, now working on getting that Jacksonville franchise turned around with Liam Cohen. Of course, lost Brad Holmes. Anytime you lose a GM, you're going to lose other people underneath as well. I know, Brad took some people, James took some people, Les reloading, has good people, has people in that front office. Do they still have anybody that should be up getting interviews? I'm sure they'll have interviews, but anybody that's going to get some buzz.
Well, John McKay is the assistant GM there. Obviously, the McKay name is a strong one in the league. The thing I think that is in his favor is that we're seeing a lot more GMs that come from the pro side rather than the college side. And that's kind of where McKay's roots are. So I think he's a guy that deserves some consideration. Taylor Morton is probably as egoless as you're going to find in the business. And I think Taylor as well, Roderick. Instantly likable, but forget about that. He's a talented evaluator. He plays a key role. And I think maybe of everyone in that front office, if Taylor got hit by a bus, it would hurt less the most. I think the role that he plays there, again, a little bit more in the back, not as much in getting the headlines, but he's a really valuable part of that front office. And then listen, I know that Ray Farmer, that things didn't end so well in Cleveland. It was kind of a mess, but I think Ray deserves another shot. And he's been another guy that's played a key role there with the Rams. Again, more in the background, not a guy that gets a lot of headlines and that kind of thing. He doesn't play that game, but I know Ray pretty well, and I know how talented he is, and I know what he brings to an organization. Another guy that's got roots on the pro side, but has also worked the college side. If you're looking for someone who deserves a second shot, I think Ray's that guy. So, who's been more rated than the Rams over the last 2 or 3 years? You kind of ran down the names. Last year it was Brian Alexander, J.W. Jordan, and Brian Hill, who's another future GM who went to Jacksonville. But they just keep reloading, and they've got a strong structure there already, and I expect them to continue to develop more talent that is GM ready soon.
Yeah, well, before we get to names, again, outside of these teams, perhaps, again, make sure if you have questions, comments, and names, your team that you're wondering if there's a name or two, make sure you head over to Twitter, X. That's probably going to be the best spot. Hit Neil at Inside the League. Hit me at Right Step ADV. Hit us those questions as we're live here. We will get those answered for you. Again, most of you listening out there probably have Neil and I's number as well. Hit us a text. We'll throw that question up here as we dive into it. Again, Neil, a team that has placed a couple GMs through the cycles, again, going back further than 5 years, the 49ers, of course, Adam Peters ran Carthon. Again, they have a couple candidates, and then let's talk about them. Let's talk about Indianapolis. Again, if you want to say overachieving, blowing expectations out of the water, everybody was ready to fire Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen with the preseason Anthony Richardson stuff. Well, again, joke's on you. They look pretty good, even though, again, maybe they're coming down to earth a little bit the last couple of weeks. Right. You want to say gave one away against the Chiefs. But again, let's talk about the 49ers. Let's talk about the Colts here.
Well, the 49ers they certainly have stocked a lot of other teams' front offices with products of their team. The one that I think that stands out is Tariq Ahmad, who's the VP of player personnel there. a real riser. And I talk to people with other teams, and they want to talk about Tariq. They don't want to talk about their own people. I've never heard anyone say, "Man, this guy, come on." I mean, is he really all that he's cracked up to be? I think he is, and I think he is definitely. I mean, if he doesn't get a job this cycle, I would be surprised. Now, obviously, we don't know how many opens there's going to be, but he's a guy that I would be really excited about if my favorite team named him the GM. But he's not the only one. RJ Gillen is another talented guy. Assistant GM has won Bart lists. I think very highly of him. Again, pro side more than college side, and I think that's becoming more in vogue. I'm not sure exactly why, but that's becoming more in vogue with owners. And then a guy who's a bit more down the line, but Don DeSico, who's won, I think, 3 Barts. I mean, he was a big success as a national guy. He's been a big success as a college director, although I think he's only had that job 1 year. But I see him every year at Bar List Awards. He's there to pick up an award. So they've got a lot of really talented people there. Those are 3 that I would really keep an eye on if I was looking for a rising stars in the business. And then you mentioned the Colts, who are a winner in 2019 for the 2018 draft. The one that's at the top of the list is Ed Dodds. I think Ed has probably interviewed as many times as anyone that I can think of for different jobs, and it looked like there were a couple times he was going to get picked. It hasn't happened yet. Ed's intense, very talented on the college side. He's been with Chris Ballard for an awful long time. I think he's going to leave a hole whenever he does leave, but he's another one who's just kind of a matter of time before he gets somewhere and gets a job. But another one also that I would mention is Director of College Scouting, Matt Turpinning. He's got 4 Bart lists, and Matt's another guy that he's not Mr. Viable, Mr. Loves to talk to the media. He's not a headliner in that regard, but he is well respected and just a member of a talented staff. I mean, the Colts have a number of scouts and directors who've gotten awards, and I could read through all of them. I don't want to do that yet. Some of them are still a couple rungs away, but they're a team that has got a lot of respect in NFL circles, even if they haven't really produced until this year, haven't really been productive on the field as much.
Yeah, it was a great case study for, again, front offices. Again, I think in a lot of ways it's a little bit what Cincinnati is doing as well, just haven't done the on field. But again, everybody was ready to fire Ballard and Steichen when Anthony Richardson was basically, again, gets hurt, named the backup, whatever it was. And you didn't hear a peep from that front office. It was, we're sticking with the plan. It was, hey, we're just going to keep rolling. All of a sudden, Daniel Jones comes out and looked like an early MVP candidate. And it's like, right. Yeah, this is what we do. We know our roster. We built it in the trenches, a good offensive line. They're getting after it. Again, their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, probably butchered that one. Again, he's going to be a head coaching candidate. So again, they are, again, just stable. The only thing I feel bad for Ed Dodds, I had been confused for Ed Dodds on the road. Back in the day, people walk up, hey, Ed, and I'm like,
same haircut,
poor guy, right? Poor guy. Again, bald head, slight beard. Again, I guess it's something that it's our lot in life. But again, that's probably maybe the biggest negative for Ed Dodds is, he's got a, ugly doppelganger out there. But again, going back to the San Francisco front office, again, when you start thinking about the names that are probably going to be at the top of the list in Miami, again, you talk about the connection. Of course, Mike McDaniels, a Kyle Shanahan guy, was in San Francisco, so he personally knows, has been in the building with these guys. How much do you think that plays a factor for, again, the Miami hiring or any of these other jobs, that knowing the head coach and GM, that they have a past, they have a history, they kind of know how they operate? How important is that?
Well, it's, with Mike McDaniel returning, presuming he's going to return, it's an open question. Do they want to bring in someone who's worked with him in the past and who's going to maybe find the next quarterback? Or do they want to go in a completely different direction and kind of give McDaniel a year, but then have someone who's got roots with a different organization who might want to go in a different direction? So it's hard to say until we know exactly what's going to happen this offseason. And what direction they want to go, and maybe how things play out over the rest of the season. I'm still surprised that McDaniel was retained, and just given the fact that they're kind of at a crossroads franchise wise and have been down this year. We're down a little bit last year too. So it's really hard to speculate there. I don't know what they want to do and kind of where they want to go. I even wonder if it's not out of the question they do still make a change of head coach, and if they do, then I could see a number of directions they could go. There's so many, we've spent the last half hour doing nothing but naming names, so it's hard for me to really speculate there because it just seems so undecided about what's going to happen with so many different directions they could go.
Yeah. Again, it seemed like it was on the doorstep. Mike, it was ready to be let go again. They make the move with Chris Greer, who again, there was retirement talk last year kind of coming
Yeah.
out. Again, Chris has been a good lifelong football guy. Again, you
Mhm.
you talk about any number of reasons why they chose to go that direction. Mike seemed to be on the doorstep, and yet all of a sudden they turn around, obviously beat Buffalo, play better here and there. Again, the patience factor, possibly again, hey, you're interviewing from here until the end of the year for the current
Right.
job you have. Again, I would make the argument it's maybe what the Giants are doing with Joe Shane. Again, the draft class from this last year looks like it's gonna shake out pretty well. Jackson Dart, when he stays healthy, has been good. Abdul
Mhm.
Carter has been productive. Cam Scatabo was playing pretty well before he got hurt. So again, it's kind of jury's out. Do the Barras want to see what the plan is? Do the Rosses want to see what Mike McDaniel's plan is? How he puts it together? All that kind of factors in. And when you start thinking about these spots that's kind of the case again. New Orleans, Cincy, again, injuries, underachieving O line. You talk about Cleveland, what's going on in Cleveland. They seem like the one where again, if you're going to clean house, but again, no indications from ownership. Again, good agents, good media, good PR. Again, from whatever side of it, it all makes sense.
Mhm.
Atlanta, I don't think anything changes there. This was a good roster. Again, dealt with some injury bugs. Raheem
Yeah.
Terry, again, for whatever qualms I have, again, this is a pretty good roster in Atlanta that again just hasn't quite lived up.
Yeah.
Again, there's always going to be a surprise change. It's inevitable every cycle, whether on the coaching side, whether on the front office side. Again, how safe is John Gannon down in Arizona? Again, one week they look like they're going to be all right. One week they get blown out. You just question what they're doing. There's
Mhm.
going to be changes. There's going to be surprise. Are there any other names, again, surprise names, names from completely out of left field? Anybody else you think we need to talk about?
With regard to GM vacancies or regard to kind of
Whatever you want. Any names
okay, yeah.
on any area of football?
There are a few more people that I want to mention that, you know, maybe they weren't with teams that have won best draft yet, but I think they're on the cusp and I think they deserve a little bit more attention. Ryan Cowden has kind of bounced around, but coming to New England, he's been a big. Obviously, they've had instant success. Now, let's tell the truth. Now, Elliott and Alonso were the ones that drafted the quarterback, and boy, what a success he's been this year. But I mean, there were people in that front office just a year ago saying, "Hey, this isn't a very good team," and Elliott and Alonso have done remarkable work. But I think Cowden has really benefited from the fact that he came in and you know, right or wrong, they've been immediately successful. Now, again, there are a lot of people that have had success there, and the head coach, of course, plays a big role in that. But I think Cowden benefits from the bounce that the Patriots have gotten out of this. Um, it's been no secret that I'm a big fan of Alonzo, and I think he's been uh, picked over, or passed over a lot of times when he shouldn't have been. I still think there's an opportunity out there for him. I hope that there's still an opportunity out there for him. He's just a very talented guy, and he's won virtually everywhere he's gone. Terrence Gray in Buffalo is another guy who's I think he's got two Bartlett awards. Um, that's what a great franchise Buffalo is. I don't think they get enough credit. I know they've been a little bit up and down, a little inconsistent this year, but you know, wow, obviously they got the quarterback right. They've done a number of other things right, and I think that he's ready to go somewhere and replicate that success. Alec Halaby in Philadelphia. I don't know Alec, but I do know that people talk about him in a very positive light, and he's got an analytics background that more and more owners really love, and especially the new guard guys. And so I think he's going to be attractive during this hiring cycle. John Eric Sullivan in Green Bay, to me, is long overdue for a GM slot. And I think the thing about John Eric is he proves you can be a good guy and be really successful, really talented, and be a part of a lot of good, be a part of a good organization. Uh, Anyone who's looking to replicate the success the Packers have had, I think that's where I would start. Good bloodlines there too. Obviously. Malik Boyd, another Buffalo name. I think that and Malik has interviewed a couple times. I think it's just a matter of time for him. Just some there. I think Buffalo is. They're kind of like the Rams and Seattle. I mean, in regard to they've got and the 49ers in regard to gotten picked. They've got a lot of people I think that would be great as GMs. They just haven't been rated the way that those other teams have so far. A guy that doesn't get a lot of credit, but David Blackburn in Washington came out of Baltimore, great pedigree there. Obviously, the Baltimore's had a lot of success. It hasn't been there on the field for the Commanders this year. A lot of that's got to do with injuries, but I think David's a guy that should get more interest than he has, and I think that's going to change, especially if in the over the long run. I mean, this is I think his first year as a DPP, and so maybe he's a year or two away. But then another one is Richmond Williams in Green Bay to give you another Packer. Richmond accepted the award. The Packers are one of the three winners of the Best Pro Department this year, and I think he's starting to get more recognition for the work he's done there. So there's a few people that again haven't been attached to a Best Draft Award per se, but I think are very highly regarded. We could talk for days about others that are kind of on the way up, and I know that they're going to be. I'm sure I'm going to hear from people as soon as this gets posted about what about this guy, what about that guy. You're right. I mean we can't just go through and have a roll call per se, but those are just some of the ones I think that have gotten attention, some that haven't gotten maybe as much attention as they deserve. They're certainly not the only ones.
Yeah. Again, a couple of these franchises that they're in the running. They're a top 5 best drafting, and Green Bay seems to draft well about every year. They just
Absolutely.
quite haven't been to number one. Again, you mentioned Buffalo. They've been in that boat. Baltimore. Did we name a single Baltimore front office guy? Of course, Joe Horitz out in LA now. Again, for so many scouts, yes, that like when you talk gold standard of gold standard, just to work in that personnel department, again, we were told in Atlanta, you can't compare any front office to them. Well, why not? They're one of 32. But again, a front office stability, again, going from Ozzie to DaCosta, like again,
Right.
a front office, and yet we didn't mention a name. They have to have some people, whether you have any loaded, ready to go. Don't be surprised when a name gets brought up from that Baltimore front office as a really good candidate that knows how to win.
Well, they take care of their people and they pay well and they know they win. And I think they've kind of, for lack of better words, kind of an esprit de corps that not everybody else has. I mean, George Kokonis is a VP of player personnel there, and he's more or less a lifer. I mean, he started with the Browns, but came east with the Ravens. He's been there for an awful long time. He's been with, I mean, he's got a lot of skins on the wall, but you don't hear about him very often. Now, Mark Azevedo, DPP, is kind of a bit of a riser there, but I think he's still kind of a wrong way. There are more that are in the pipeline, but some of them went west with Joe Ortiz. You talked about that. You're right. It is kind of funny that they don't have anyone who's really on the precipice per se, at least in the eyes of the national media. But I don't know. The Ravens always do it right, and probably someone's going to surprise us and hire a Raven, and then we're all going to be angry because we're like, well, of course. Why? I mean, when they're successful, we'll be like, why wouldn't they be successful? Because the Ravens have had so much success in the past. So you're right. It's hard. It's just hard to find. Some people just want to stay there. Some people feel like they're happy being part of an organization that wins. They maybe certain assurances have been made. Maybe they have family situations. There's a number of reasons why guys don't necessarily jump from job to job, or at least get the maybe the acclaim they deserve. But that doesn't mean they're not doing a good job, obviously.
Yeah, certainly. And again, that's Neil and I never hope for or root for or pine for any of these GM jobs to be open. It is a tough
Certainly not.
job. There's so many factors. Again, just like a player playing on field, you're working in a people business. At the end of the day, you're dealing with people, which again, there's plenty of wild cards out there with draft, with pro free agency, with every element of it. And so again, we always wish for and hope for success. And again, especially the good people that are in the NFL. There's people on both sides of that fence. We always wish for success for the good people. And again, hopefully some of the names that deserve it get right recognition. But at the same time, Neil, if we would have done this show last year at this time, I can't imagine we would have talked about James Gladstone. And yet, look where he's sitting right now, running that franchise with Liam Cohen down in Jacksonville, which means there are certainly going to be names out there that maybe they're a little bit of a surprise to us. Maybe they're again under the radar. Maybe again you start to kick the tires on them again. Just like the draft process, you may know you're not going to draft somebody. NFL owners may know they're not going to hire somebody, but hey, maybe it's a future guy, somebody we want to know. Again, good opportunity to see if you can grab some intel on a division or conference opponent. Always part of the interview process. See what you can learn. But again, we're maybe a month away from things really heating up. Probably slightly less than that as teams start getting eliminated. As you have to start thinking about that 2026 roster, you want to start to get those pieces in place. Again, Miami, I'd imagine they're already doing a little bit behind the scenes. They're out in front of it. Again, other owners, of course, that we know the involvement agents have, hopefully in a good way, hopefully in an above board way. But again, they certainly play a factor in all of it. But again, there's going to be more names. If you have names you think we should have mentioned, make sure you let us know over on Twitter, on X, at Inside the League for Neil, at Right Step ADV for me. Again, this one will be out. If you didn't catch the whole thing live, if you want to listen to the beginning of the episode, as we've had more and more people jump on as we've been going here today. It's going to be out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Make sure you go back while you're there. Check out our archives. Check out past conversations we've had. Everything that we do here on Scouting the League is about shining that light on the front offices, on the scouting process. Again, it's impossible not to show and talk about the coaching. We get into the college game, plenty of college GMs, directors looking for more coaches, always having fun. Neil, as we head into Thanksgiving, as we head into the holiday here, as we get down to this podcast, any news, notes, thoughts that you want to leave everybody with?
Well, if you are a member of the NFL scouting community, we're going to be starting the voting here very shortly in December. I would encourage y'all to please vote. And as I reach out to people, I've been talking to a few who said, "Hey, man, I never do get a ballot." We're trying the best we can to get through the email filters and to try to detect email addresses. And sometimes we're a little off by a character or two. If you want to vote and you're part of the community, we want your vote. We don't want the same winners every year. We know there are some under surveilled, or let's see, under surveyed, I guess I should say, segments of the scouting community, and we really want to get. I mean, we really, again, like I always say, I don't get a vote. I only count the votes. We want as many votes on this as possible. We want to recognize the people that are talented out there, even especially those who aren't trying to get their name in front of the right people and aren't maybe represented by certain factions that do nothing but bring them acclaim. So if you're listening and you're an NFL scout and you don't get a ballot in December, please let me know. I want to get you one. I'm not hard to find on social media. My email address is out there, even my cell number. So I would just put that out there. We want to make this is for the NFL scouting community. We want to make it the very best measure that we can of the people who really are doing the best work. So that's just kind of my plug for our voting.
Yeah, no, the voting's important, and voting the right way. Again, we don't want it just to be the squeaky wheel gets the grease and gets an award, because oftentimes the loudest scouts in the room are not always the best. And the guys that are quiet and a bit undersung, oftentimes they're doing the best work. So again, if there is somebody that you feel strongly about, again, hit Neil or I a message. We want to recognize the good scouts, not just the scouts that, hey, get all their buddies together and tell them to go scout for them or, vote for them and do all that. We want good scouts to get the awards, to be recognized, to get the spotlight on them, because again, scouting is largely, and, for a good reason, a behind the scenes, doing the work, getting the information to help build your franchise, your team, put wins on the field. And we want to recognize you. So make sure if you don't have a ballot, let us know, get a ballot, make sure you vote honestly. And hopefully we will get you recognized at the 2026 NFL Combine. Man, it is approaching quickly as we're getting more and more done in the NFL season. We're into rivalry week on the college season. There's going to be a bunch of good games, this weekend. Chances for redemption, chances to ruin playoff hopes. It's going to be a fun few games. Neil, is there a game you have circled this weekend? Not yet Army Navy, but this weekend.
You stole my thunder. It's all a preamble, right? I mean, everyone get your football practicing, watching practice in. The real game doesn't, still a week away. So, I mean, these are all nice rivalries. And, hey, listen, good for Michigan and Ohio State that they have been playing these games for so long. But we all know what we're all waiting for is the last game of the season. And so, I mean, it's all funny games. And these are all nice guys, and I'm sure they'll have a good time this weekend. But Army Navy, of course, is the one we've all really got circled. So
yeah,
we'll wait for that one.
That Army Navy game, it is every bit worth the watch. Again, even if it's the only time you've seen Army or Navy play this year, again, go turn that one on and turn on the pregame, because again, the pregame, the stories, the tradition, again, everything that goes into that game is, it is awesome. Again, of course, the game, that's a big one. Again, Ohio State's got to get it back. Again, Auburn, Alabama is always a big one. I think you can tell I'm a Midwesterner because the Cy-Hawk game, Iowa, Nebraska is always a big one for, the bragging rights in the cornfields, which is a fun one. Again, USC, UCLA, get some of these other games that maybe don't have the national relevance, but will certainly dictate it. The Texas A&M game could be a really fun one, Neil. I think that one in your home state is could have some big implications in the coming weeks, and could be, again, kind of a season saver for Sark and Arch and the Longhorns, or hey, that final statement to move into top one, top two. Certainly consideration for A&M and Coach Elko. So again, a lot of fun games, but again, whatever you're doing, wherever you're at, make sure you're watching football, enjoying it. Leave us your comments. Let us know what you think of this one. Enjoy your Thanksgiving and keep scouting.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.